Engagement Office here at SUNY Cortland as one of our assistant directors. We really appreciate you all joining us today for a campus update with President Erik Bitterbaum. This event is sponsored by the SUNY Cortland Alumni Association and is part of our 2021 virtual reunion programming. We are halfway through a week of virtual events, a photo contest, lots of fun social media, and so much more in connecting us all back to Cortland in this virtual way. At the beginning of each of our events, we'd like to remind everyone of the following. The SUNY Cortland Alumni Association takes pride in creating among our Cortland family an inclusive environment for alumni, students, faculty, staff, and all other campus community members. Any demonstration of bias, racism, derogatory remarks, or any other actions that individually or systemically harm others have no place in our university community and will not be tolerated. By attending or participating in this event, you acknowledge that you will act in a respectful manner. Failure to adhere to this statement will not be tolerated, and you may be asked to leave this event. With all of that said, I'd now like to introduce President Erik Bitterbaum to tell you all about what's new and exciting on campus today. There will be an opportunity for Q&A at the end of the presentation, or you can put your questions in the chat. Thank you, Erik, for being here today. All you.
Yes, well, it's my pleasure, and thank you for joining us. I'm sorry that we can't all be in person at the Alumni House this summer, but everything going well. We'll see all of you next summer in July here in Cortland, New York. Let me first talk about this extraordinary year we lived through. It was exhausting, it was relentless, and I had many sleepless nights, as did most of our colleagues. To my amazement, we were very fortunate. No students were hospitalized, or faculty or staff. We did lose a few retired faculty who were in their 80s, but other than that, we were very fortunate. We are returning to normal. So come this fall, the expectation is that all of our students will have face-to-face instruction. And I'll tell you, give you an example of one funny story. So a year ago in March, as you know, everybody had to leave, practically every university and college in America, and go home. And in a 2-week period, we had to switch to online remote education. And so everyone left here about March 19th. Sometime in the middle of August, 5 months later, I received a telephone call from a mother. She said, "Dr. Bitterbaum, I have 2 students at Cortland, and I've spent the last 5 months with them in my home, and they're driving me crazy. You've got to take them back." And I said, "Well, that's not my choice yet." I called the governor's office, and sure enough, I got a message from the chancellor that an alum, she also was an alum, had called the governor's office. Needless to say, what we ended up doing is about 60% of our courses in the fall were online and 40% were in person. And in the spring, about 70% of our courses were online and about 30% were in person. The ones that tended to be in person were labs like in biology, chemistry, physics, athletic training, etc. But we now will be, as I just shared with you, face-to-face. The governor has mandated, if the emergency designation is dropped, that any student who attends any SUNY or any CUNY, the city universities of New York, they have to be vaccinated. And there only will be 2 reasons why they may forego that. One is you have a medical exemption, or you have a religious exemption. The religious ones are a little more tricky. With the medical, obviously a health professional will sign off on it. I have learned recently, for instance, Lyme disease is considered an autoimmune illness, and some physicians do not want their patients to get the vaccine at this time. But the religious one's a little more tricky, and I have another funny story. About a month ago, I received an email from a student who said, "Dr. Bitterbaum, I came to Cortland, and I'm now in my sophomore year. I'm a rising junior. And I ended up becoming a philosophy major. I took world religion classes, and I've decided to become a Buddhist. And I want you to know that Buddhists do not get the vaccine." Well, I happened to mention this to my vice president for student affairs, And Greg sent me a video of the Dalai Lama being vaccinated, encouraging Buddhists all over the world to be vaccinated. I have not yet, of course, I sent it to the young man, and I have yet to hear back from him. So in the midst of all of this, there are these amusing stories. We will keep some apartment buildings at West Campus, if you remember West Campus, for quarantine and isolation. But we do expect that either in late August or during the school year in the fall, the emergency designation will be removed and all of our students will have to be vaccinated, which makes it for a much safer campus. I do want to thank our alums. As disruptive as this was, just to give you some examples, with our students going home, it became very difficult to do their courses online. In some cases, they only had one computer at home, and their sisters and brothers had to use the computer. So we were able to at least lend some of our students laptops, but you provided us with funding, which was critical. We had what is known as the Student Emergency Fund, and we raised from our alums and friends nearly $400,000 in aid to help our students face the hardship of COVID-19. And to date, we have given out over approximately 1,000 grants to our students, totaling well over $300,000. And that allowed them to help with technology, it helped with food, it helped with rent. It has made a real difference. And we receive these lovely notes from our students that if you'd like to see, we can always send them to you. It also, in the midst of a pandemic, it was absolutely startling that we have raised, for the second year in a row, over $1 million in our Cortland Fund. And during the Cortland Challenge, which is a 24-hour period, we raised over $300,000 to be used to help students. What's particularly interesting in the 2019 to 20 fiscal year, this past year, we led all comprehensive colleges. There are 13 of us. You know them as Fredonia, New Paltz, and Oneonta. We raised the most money during the pandemic, coming out of the pandemic now. We raised over $5 million as reported by SUNY. So that's really a feather in our cap, but it's really a feather in our alumni. And as you know, we're in a capital comprehensive campaign called All In, Building on Success. And to date, we have raised over $24 million, of which the majority of it, 12 million, is for student scholarships. And so that has made a real difference in the life of our students. We still remain very strong, a very popular college. We have room for about 1,250 freshmen every year, and we have gone, once again, well over 11,000 applications. So you can see that it becomes difficult, but we have to reject thousands and thousands of students. We just don't have the place. And this is not true of all our sister institutions. We're in a very fortunate position. You may also find this very interesting. We have 4 new majors that have become very popular. One is healthcare management. Nobody knew that the pandemic was coming, but this is a collaboration between the Department of Business Economics and our Department of Health, and they invented this health management, and it has a clinical component. You have to work in a clinic or do an internship. And of course, those graduates are being just grabbed immediately. Another major that's become very popular is our environmental geoscience, which is about sustainability and the earth. A third one is inclusive early childhood education. It's a dual certification where you can work with young children that have developmental or physical disabilities. And then the fourth new one is in the Department of Communication. It's known as media production, and it was just ranked as the 3rd finest media production program in the state of New York. And remember, there are over 300 colleges and universities, so we're very proud of that. Last year, we had a lot of rain and sunshine, and the campus looked magnificent, and nobody could visit. And so that was very disappointing to me. But this summer, if you're nearby, please do come visit. We're still getting a lot of rain and sunshine. Uh, the one building that you really should go into is Moffett. Moffett was completely gutted, and it is magnificent inside. You'll be startled. Of course, the two gyms are not there, and it's now the home of math, health, uh, business economics, and political science, and then our Institute for Civic Engagement, in which over 2,000 students volunteer every semester in the community, from Big Brother, Big Sister, Catholic Charities, you name it. So please walk into Moffett. There's also a little area where you can get a cup of coffee and eat in the atrium. I think you'll be very impressed. The other major project is an $11 million project in which we're redoing all the lighting on campus. This will be phased over 2 years. And so there's a lot of scarring, a lot of trenches have been built, but eventually it will save us a lot of money, and the campus will be safer and lit up. And as you know, from if you read our information from Alumni Affairs, we are considered the safest campus in New York State, which I hope continues to be the case. Since many of you have an interest in athletics, and athletics has been very important in the life of the college, we're very proud of this fact that 262 students at SUNY Cortland this past year made the academic honor roll. So not only were they good students as far as athletes, but they had a 3.3 and above, which is either a B plus, A minus. And 262 is really quite extraordinary. And then the commissioner came out with the all-decade team for the last 10 years. And we had, in the 18 sports that were recognized, 143 students. It was the highest among all the SUNY comprehensive. So we were very proud of that. And of course, we did not have any fall sports. We did not have any winter sports. But the 10 presidents who made up the SUNYAC, we made an attempt to have spring sports. They had a shorter season. We did win the SUNYAC in men and women's lacrosse. We did very well in track and field. Matter of fact, one of our students came in second in the nation in the high jump, a young lady. And then Jack Flood, who had graduated in the past, was invited to the U.S. Olympic trials in the decathlon. Though he didn't make the U.S. team, the top three, just the honor of being invited is quite extraordinary. Fine young man. And then there are some new fun things. This afternoon, between 1 and 3, we now have a food truck. And we are giving out free ice cream to our community. We worked with Cornell Dairy, and we have what is known as the Red Dragon Delicious. It's a mixture of ice cream with caramel and chocolate turtles in it. So when you come on the campus, look for the food truck and try this decadent delight. It's going to be in front of Corey if you happen to be nearby today. And there's a lot to speak about. I didn't want to go on forever, so I thought I would open up to questions and give you the opportunity to ask me anything you want. Is what I tell people. We're very transparent. So you can ask about faculty, you can ask about programs, you can ask about the future. So whatever you'd like to know about, I would be delighted to tell you if I have the answer. So let me open it at this time. I've spoken for 15 minutes, and I'd rather answer questions, but I can, if you know me, I can go on forever.
I'll
Yeah,
watch. Oh, go ahead, Perry. I was just going to say I'll watch the chat for some questions.
yeah, I was just wondering, you mentioned that we can visit the campus. Are there rooms available on campus for visitors?
Oh, you mean to stay overnight?
Yes.
Right now, no. That is something we're thinking of doing. We have done it in the past during alumni weekend. But right now, what we're doing is we hire our own students to go ahead and paint where we need to in the residence halls. Um, we do have student summer camps, but because we were still nervous about the virus, they actually can't live on the campus. So right now, there are plenty of hotels in the area. So right across is a Fairfield Inn, which you literally can walk across the street to the college. And so if you'd like to visit, by all means, please do. But right now, we're either getting ready for the fall or we're just still being cautious.
Just a quick comment, if I may.
Yeah, please.
I'm extraordinarily impressed by the publication Our Common Ground, and particularly impressed by the commitment the college has made to social justice, diversity. It is a quantum leap from my days from 1961 to 1965, during which I felt that I was in a sort of a Cortland cocoon when it came to the people on campus and the representation of different groups from the state of New York. So I'm very, very pleased to see what you've done in your
Well, it's
years and prior to your years.
yeah, it's a lot of people. So I can share some information with you. So when I arrived here, only 4% of our student body were students of color. Right before the pandemic, we got as high as 27%. So one out of every four students on our campus was either African American, Latinx, and they contributed immensely to the quality of our education and what actually happens here. I might explain to you how that came about, because as you know, Cortland is a rather isolated area and it tends to be rather white in this region. So there was a commitment from all of us to, first of all, you have to hire faculty. And we had some successes and continue to have some successes. I can explain that in a second. But what we have done, which I think is really quite unique, nobody else was doing this in New York, now they're copying us, is our director of admissions said, if you give me the funds, I will rent buses to bring students from our major metropolitan areas of Rochester, Buffalo, New York City, especially Albany. Of course, Syracuse is easy. And so we invited students for free and their parents to jump on these large buses and come up and spend a day with us. So they would leave at 7 in the morning, get to us by 10 or 11, stay till for lunch, and then late into the afternoon. They would meet students, they could meet faculty, and it became a great success. And in certain families, especially Latinx families, it's just not mom and dad. Grandparents come, uncles and aunts. It becomes a family decision, we learned. And in some cases, we had people stay overnight. Not only was that successful, but then our director of admissions suggested, look, there are other large areas. The state of Texas does not have enough universities to house all their students. Let's go down there. Let's go to Florida. Let's go to the Carolinas, because we have alums who might host, and these are large areas. And there are a lot of New Yorkers who have moved to these areas, the Carolinas, North Carolina especially. And so we have actually brought what we call gatekeepers. These are high school counselors that can say to a student, have you thought of leaving our state? And let me give you some literature that I have. And so we have actually hired individuals to represent us in other states. In the state of New Jersey, we have over 300 out-of-state students that are here, 330. I love it because they pay out-of-state tuition. And so, that's quite significant. But we have students, dozens and dozens from other states. And this is some very clever admissions officers. They're also on the road. In addition, we use our faculty. They will call, for instance, I'm a biologist, and they'll get from the admissions office a really talented kid, trying to have them at least come visit us and see what we have to offer. We do a lot of undergraduate research here. We have a day where we actually showcase undergraduate research, where I call off school for part of the day, and everybody presents their scholarship. We invite an alum who has done significant work in scholarship. So we actually have a symposium that is dedicated to the sciences, especially where we invite our undergraduates that an alum has helped endow. So it's a very dynamic and exciting place, but the key is to get students here. And so those buses and the guidance counselors has really made a difference in the kinds of students that now come. I have to tell you, I think they're very bright. I always tease alums. My wife says, don't say this, but a lot of older alums would not get in today. I know you would, but it's very competitive, and of course you all would. But the point is that it's very exciting to have, and the mix that we have today. So thank you for recognizing that and our good work. We do have a new chief diversity officer that SUNY demanded of all of us. So all 64 campuses have done that. And just to show you how committed SUNY is as a system, if we're able to get a faculty member last year and this year, they will pay 100% of their salary the first year, a faculty member of color, 50% the second year, 25% the third year, and then we take over the full cost. And we were allowed 5 last year, and we got 5 new faculty. And then this year, the same thing. So we have 10 new faculty have joined us that we could have probably never afforded, but through this process, SUNY has helped us. So we're very pleased with that direction that we're going.
See a question here in the chat from Karen. She mentioned that she is a retired Los Angeles Unified School District speech pathologist and was a speech and hearing science major. Her question is, what new developments have evolved since my day in 1977 for speech and hearing sciences?
Yeah, well, the first thing is the physical plant. If you were to visit, we have a brand new building. It's the Professional Studies building that we completely renovated and added on to. We have a clinic where families can bring children or themselves, and it's free unless you can help pay that you can come. The other big change is that we now have a master's program in speech pathology. And so it's very competitive to get in. Even some of our own graduates can't get in. It takes like a 3.8, 3.9 out of a 4.0 to get in. Because first of all, as you know, there are not enough speech pathology programs. And so it's a hot area. It's very competitive. My wife is actually an audiologist and a deaf educator as well. So it's it doesn't surprise her how popular that major is. The one thing that's fascinating to me, last time I looked, we had 156 undergraduates in the program. 152 of them were women and 4 males. And I thought, God bless those men. They have 152 women who are, curious. I don't know how to get more men into that profession. It is a wonderful profession, and it pays very well. It's a very intellectually challenging, career, and it's just ripe for opportunities. And like male nurses and male elementary school teachers. It's just society is looking for these individuals. The few men that we do have, they tend to go into audiology. And it's just, you can be in private practice, you can be in a school, you can work at the VA. So whenever I go out, I always try to encourage people to look at speech pathology, audiology as a profession. But you'll have to come and visit and see the brand new building and all the different labs. It's very impressive. I go down to have my hearing checked once a year in the audiology area. I've discovered I've lost some upper decibels, unfortunately. That's probably the wrong word I'm using, but my wife is trying to correct me. But anyway, I've had a little hearing loss. Any other? Elle, you're on mute, so I can't hear you. But any other questions? I'd be delighted to answer.
Another question in the chat from Jonathan. He said, "Hi, all happy to be here. President Bitterbaum, could you talk about student wellness challenges and any current and future initiatives that are designed to address wellness and student success?"
Yes, so wellness is one of our major strategic initiatives, and we look at it comprehensively, not only in academic affairs, but in student affairs. So we have begun a lot of wellness programs. One of the things that's unique about Cortland is we have a very large intramural program, and we also have something that's quite unique to Cortland. It may have existed when some of you were here, called sports clubs. So we're a very active community. We do a lot in the area of wellness. For instance, we're a tobacco-free campus. That we were the second campus of the 64 to mandate no tobacco use on our campus. So you don't see cigarette butts and you don't see things of that nature. That came from our health department and our health students. And we do a lot of programmatic uh, modules and different courses. In addition, Student Affairs has funding to bring in speakers. Now, during the pandemic, a lot of that had to be done remotely, but we bring all kinds of gifted speakers on a whole variety of topics about your mental health. I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but even prior to the pandemic, the amount of anxiety and depression that we were seeing on college campuses had spiked. And so we spend a lot of time, we've hired additional counselors to work with our students. So almost everyone in some capacity is working on wellness issues here at the campus, both in the classroom and then outside the classroom. If you go to our websites, there's lots of wonderful information about the college, but you'll see a lot of information about wellness initiatives here at SUNY Cortland. Our website is actually very good. Unfortunately, there are 28,000 pages. So you just have to, where there's the little question mark, you put in your topic and that'll get you to the right area.
Any other questions? Feel free to unmute and ask yourself or place it in the chat.
One person I
In the
see
chat.
that's on is Michelle Barron. She does a survey every year about how our students, what they do when they leave. And you might find this very interesting. So a year out after our students graduate, over 90% of our students, it's probably even gotten higher, are either employed or they're in graduate school. They're in their careers that they chose to be in, or they're in the graduate schools that they want to pursue. And that's very, very high. And I don't know what the data will look like for this past year because of the pandemic. In addition, something that's very interesting about Cortland, of our seniors that graduated in 2019, 1 out of every 5 senior had gone abroad. We really believe that having a global perspective, the opportunity to go international, does raise the specter of what it means to be a human being and to understand world events and world concerns. And so our faculty take our students on short courses or they can go abroad. We have 35 of our own programs around the world. And then because we're part of SUNY, believe it or not, there's not a country in the world that you can't go to. One of the unique programs that we have that some people have gone on from other SUNY campuses plus our own is Baku, Azerbaijan. We have an exchange program with Azerbaijan Foreign Language University. And we've had some Azeris come. And I do something that I started here 18 years ago. When you graduate from a country and we don't have your national flag, we have you presented at graduation. So we now have over 90 flags that fly around the campus from these students that have graduated from, in some cases, the last one was Albania, which I was very pleased with. So if you see all these flags, there's a meaning behind them. It's because someone graduated from SUNY Cortland from that nation.
Eric, I'd love to give a little plug if that's okay.
Yeah, please give us an update.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Michelle Barron. I'm Associate Director here in Career Services. And regarding first destinations and some of the stuff Eric talked about earlier, the world has flipped us upside down, right? So that whole thing, the 90% of students are employed and going to graduate school, and all of the stats that we've had for years and years, it looks very, very different right now. But we have done some really, really good work to make sure that the students, and kind of as they transition out, they are in a good place, and we kind of help them along the way. So rest assured, our students and our recent graduates, those numbers are not going to look the same for the next few years. The way the labor market and the world job market has been flipped upside down, this story is going to be very different next year when I start to put these pieces together. But we're doing a great job for our students. I really do believe that. And this evening, if you want to talk a little bit about that and then career services and what we do, I actually will be here at 7 o'clock for a meeting. So if you are interested and available, if you have more questions, I would be happy to talk to you then when we're going to be doing that stuff. So I will pop out now, but thanks for giving me the time. Take care.
Thank you, Michelle. Any other things that you're curious about that we would be delighted to share with you? The key, of course, is to come visit and to just walk the campus, go into our buildings. If you can come during the school year, you can even sit in on a class and hear a biologist speak, or an artist, or whatever the case may be. Just let us know in advance, and we would be delighted to host you.
I noticed that you have an open door behind you. Is that door always open? Are you?
Yeah, it is
you maintain an
actually.
open door policy?
I do, and sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. But my wife and I spend a lot of time with our students. You might get a kick out of this. So the very first year we were here, we looked back and we discovered there were only 2 weekends that we didn't have commitments on the college campus. It's because we were sort of on vacation. But we love going to anything that happens on the campus. And the tragedy this past year is we couldn't visit with students, and they really couldn't visit with us, except mostly remotely. And when I did see students, we're all wearing masks. And so, it was a really difficult year. I know they're very excited about coming back. One thing I don't know if I should share with you, I was talking to some rising sophomores, and they said to me, Dr. Bitterbaum, we were robbed of our freshman year. We can't wait to come back and have a great time and be exuberant. And I said, did you look up exuberant? And they said, yes, we know what it means. So I have forewarned the mayor. The mayor of Cortland actually works at Cortland, Mayor Tobin. And he said, oh, Eric, it doesn't surprise me. My swimmers have already told me, who are rising sophomores, they really want to enjoy life. They'll be good students, don't worry, he said. But so we'll have to monitor them.
Any other questions?
Just think when you were an 18 and 19-year-old and how you wanted to enjoy life. That was taken away from them last year.
This is a question.
Are freshmen allowed to have cars?
They are. We're a unique campus. They've always been invited to bring their automobiles. Many of them, of course, work. So they go to college and they work at Walmart or other places as well. We have a lot of students working on campus because of our new Student Life Center. If you've had a chance to see it, we've hired close to 300 students every year to work there with other students. So that's been great. But a lot of our students come from very modest backgrounds, and so many of them do work. A lot of them have jalopies. Every once in a while, you'll see a car that a student's driving, and faculty were wondering, why do they have a nicer car than I do? But those are exceptions at SUNY Cortland.
Yeah, what's changed is I had to hide my car downtown.
Oh, okay. No, today you're allowed. Oneonta does not allow freshmen to have cars, and we have a number of students who told me that they would have gone to Oneonta except they couldn't have a car. And once they come here, they fall in love with Cortland, and They never leave.
This is a question regarding the budget situation. How is the budget? Are you in good shape as far as your budget's concerned? And did you have to make any cutbacks in your programs like other schools may have done?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. So we had very healthy reserves going into March, not realizing the pandemic was about to hit. And we returned, Don, over $10 million to our students. Mostly that was room and board. It was quite a hit. We never made any cuts to faculty or staff. We did have some retirements, of course, and we did make some decisions about people that usually we paid through the summer, but there were no students here. So we've invited them to come back in the fall. But other than that, like most colleges and universities in this country, we're student dependent. That's where 85% of our budget comes from. And because we have an abundance of students, we've been very fortunate. We did miss out on, room and board, obviously, in the this past year, but we were able to make our way through. We did still have reserves. And so we were one of the exceptional schools that we were able to get through. But I should also mention that the CARES Act, the stimulus funds, made a world of difference for us. Stimulus 1, 2, and 3 made, like for every college and university, made a big difference. But there are a lot of private liberal arts colleges that are going under. This past year, 17 different schools in Massachusetts, all private, have failed. When I was a academic vice president, I had a good friend who became the president at Mount Ida when I came here in Massachusetts. They've closed. The University of Tennessee yesterday purchased Martin Methodist College to become part of the UT system. Wesley University, who we played in football, has just been purchased by Delaware. So these privates really are suffering, and you're going to see more privates go under, unfortunately, which is not healthy for higher ed. And even with the stimulus money, they weren't able to make it. We have our neighbor, who all of you know is Ithaca College, who we compete against. They have gone from 6,000 students down to 4,500, and they have released 140 permanently faculty and staff. The president resigned last week. It's a tough time in higher ed. The ones who are doing better are obviously the public institutions. Ithaca is $70,000 a year. You can come to Cortland for almost well over 3 years for 1 year there. And I have the same faculty that everybody has. I have them from the Ivy League, from the Big Ten, the Southeast. So we all have the same faculty. It's just, we might have bigger classes, or we have a different mission, or we value different things. But public higher ed is going to do very well in the next few years. And unless you have a national reputation as a private, like a Hamilton, a Colgate, you may not get by, quite frankly. So I worry about Keuka College and Cazenovia. These are schools that you might remember are in our vicinity. They are really struggling. Wells is another one. So we'll see what happens.
Thank you.
Anything else anyone would like to know about us? Don't be shy.
I don't see anything in the chat.
There are other people here from the college that I might introduce as we go across. I don't know what you're seeing, but for me, my wife, if you would wave, and Angie, who keeps all the data. So if your address changes or any change, please let us know, and Angie will put it into the computer. We have Richard Coyne, who's our associate vice president for fundraising, and then also I see Tina Aversano was here. Well, she's gone blank right now, and Michelle Artis is here as well. Our fundraisers. And then also, of course, Lori Schlick, I see her name. She's in advising and transition. And of course, Michelle, who you met. Oh, there's Lori. Wave, Lori. And then, so she helps students transition to the college and to advise them while they're here. And then Michelle, of course, is in career services. Michelle, you might, oh, maybe you're going to do it this evening. You might talk about Handshake, which our alums will know nothing about, but just what a great program it is.
Yeah, absolutely. There are some really wonderful things going on in career services right now, and ways that we are going to be able to connect students to employers in new ways. And it's been a wild year in the work that we do, but really, really hopeful and really great opportunities for access and opportunity that, again, kind of as Erik said, our students aren't just as good as Cornell students. Our students are just as good as Ithaca students, wherever, maybe better in different ways. And now employers can have more access to our students. So there's a lot of really great potential. And Handshake, this platform, is some of the technology that's fueling our ability to do it. So really wonderful things going on in the space, and it is moving so quick, but the field is ready. That intersection between college and career, we're ready to do it. So it's really exciting. So,
I might mention that this was a question I didn't get 18 years ago when I first arrived about career services, about what percentage of your students are employed, go to graduate school. And today parents are asking that question. And of course, we're able to, provide very positive answers. But that is a big change in the profession, that families want to know what's going to happen to their children when they leave college or university. And of course, we're very unique because we produce a lot of teachers, educators. And when you look at the number of principals, superintendents, athletic directors, it would be silly not to come to Cortland, because those professionals out there want to get our graduates, because they know what kind of education they received here. So that's been very helpful as well.
I've got a question in the chat from Catherine. She said 1980 graduate here, PE and athletic training. I hear there are some renovations going on in the athletic training area. I've seen so on social media. Are you able to elaborate?
Yeah, well, the best thing would be for you to come and to see it, of course. We're very well known in athletic training, and our graduates are snapped up. It's now a master's program. The profession has gone through this major change. Just one quick funny story that you might enjoy. As you know, we had the New York Jets here for 5 years, and John Melody is their chief athletic trainer, highly educated. And we asked if our students could do internships with them, and he said, "Oh, absolutely not. I'm not letting you touch these multi-million-dollar players." And then we had him come down and to see how our athletic training staff taught and what our students could do. And he said, "Next year, I'll take 5 of them." And so 5 graduating seniors got to work that summer with Mark Sanchez and Brickashaw, and others. They just really enjoyed meeting these, and they weren't supposed to do this, and they're not allowed to accept, but we learned that these multimillionaire athletes tipped our students because they thought they were poor students, and they probably are, but you're not supposed to accept a $100 bill or a $50 bill. And that was very kind of these athletes. I only learned about it later. We could have gotten into hot water. But so first of all, we put out a tremendous graduate. And then secondly, we have renovated large areas. It's a big major for us now. We have over 400 students in exercise science, kinesiology. Interesting, some of them go on to medical school, some go on to physical therapy. So it's very broad in what they do, but it's a really hot major right now, and we're riding that crest. So once again, I'd invite you to come and take a tour of our facilities. We also, just as just a unique bullet point, we house the New York State Hall of Fame for athletic training at SUNY Cortland.
Hmm.
So it's in the PER building, which, you know, is a feather in our cap that we were invited to do that. Anything else, anything that you'd be curious about?
Question, two more questions here in the chat. One from
Sure.
Jeff. He said class of 99 here. Athletic facilities look amazing. Is there a plan to renovate or update the Natatorium? Is that
Well,
in the near future?
yeah, the swimming area. So if
Ah, I didn't know it's called that.
yeah, if you remember, we used to have a swimming pool in Moffett. That's where George Breen swam and went on to win, you know, in the Melbourne Olympics, 2 bronze medals. We actually have one of his medals. He gave it to the college as a gift, and it's in the Hall of Fame room. It's very impressive to see an Olympic medal. But anyway, we closed that, and this is just an anecdote. When we closed it, I called George and I said, George, would you come down to close the swimming pool? He says, you know, Erik, I've been invited to open swimming pools, but I've never been invited to close the swimming pool. So we emptied the pool and we all sat at the bottom of the pool, and George was on top and talked about his career. And if you go to that area today, there's no swimming pool. We filled it in Moffett, and it's the home of the Department of Criminology, Anthropology, and Sociology, but they realize there's a former pool underneath them. But really now the only place you can, there are 2 places you can swim. One is, it's a little different. It's in the new Student Life Center. There are 6 lanes and there are other things you can do in that swim area. But the Natatorium has not really been renovated. It's in great shape. We empty the pool every other year, and they do some good work. I don't know exactly what's done. I just paid the bill, so I see the bill. But no, it's in fine shape, and and I hope it continues to be that way. Yeah. And of course, we're always renovating on campus as long as the state of New York has funding. We've been very fortunate. We've had a very powerful state senator who unfortunately retired, and an assemblywoman, and they had been very generous and very helpful to help us in making the changes that you see on campus. You said there was a second question, Taylor?
Yes. Yep. I just wanted to make sure you were set there. So
Oh, sure.
Jonathan would like to know if you could talk about the continuing education and certificate related programs at Cortland.
Yeah. So as it turns out, a few years ago, our provost visited with me and said, you know, we need to do more in continuing ed. And so we started an office which is called Extended Learning. And it's run by Darcy Contry. And what her office does is provide continuing ed in the summer for any student in the world, for that matter. And then we can work with professional organizations as well. For instance, if funeral directors are interested in some workshop. So we're very willing. Most of our continuing ed, though, is for credit in the evening or in the summer. And it brings in a lot of funding for us. Last year, it brought in $2 million. So that was it's very important to us. And so some of them are short courses, but most of it is, you know, we run a summer program, a winter program for 3 weeks, and then we'll work with professional organizations if they need something special. What's taken the nation by storm are what are known as micro-credentialing, like badges and things like that, and we do some of that and hope to do more. It's become a really hot area in higher ed. And so it tends to be things that we have expertise in. Any other, these are fun questions, so please keep asking. I also just want to comment again, as you know, we're in this capital campaign, and your gifts really make a difference. It has not surprised me how our students are just so thankful, especially during the emergency funds. But we have a lot of naming opportunities. So the biggest prize is our Student Life Center. If you'd like it named after you, feel free to contact us. You never know when you might win the lottery. But a classroom, a lecture, books for the library. Colleges have been hurt by the pandemic, and additional funding makes a world of difference. That's part of my job, to fundraise, and so I never miss the opportunity when I have alums in front of me and friends. Anything else that you're curious about?
One more question from Jeff.
Sure.
He would like to know, would there be a place during senior week or the week leading up to senior week to have some education to seniors on the importance and methodology to start their giving?
Yes, they have something called giving from day one. But I like your idea, but maybe I could ask Rich to talk about giving from day one.
Sure, thanks, Eric. It's actually alum from day one. It's a program that our Cortland Fund Director, Natasha McFadden, oversees. We get very involved with their senior class gift. And as you're mentioning, Senior Week, we have senior send-off that's hosted at the Lynn Park 68 SUNY Cortland Alumni House, a wonderful facility for those that do wish to come to the area and need some lodging accommodations. But it's a great event. Ellen breaks it down on the dance floor for the event. She's excellent. She's got some really sweet dance moves, but an opportunity for all of our seniors to spend some time with Eric and Ellen. And then we do a special event down in the pub of the Alumni House, recognizing those seniors that have contributed to their senior class gift. We can definitely coordinate, Jeff, on some ideas if you have any. We're always interested in learning. I know you're in the industry, so thanks again for the question. And yeah, that's how we get our seniors more involved with philanthropy.
Can I also mention too, I work closely with Natasha. We partner together to advise our Student Alumni Association. And I just wanted to add on top of it that throughout the semester, the spring semester specifically before senior send-off, we do have students tabling throughout the semester, giving other students information about why giving is important, how to give, what they should be involved in type thing, as well as including them in our Cortland Challenge as well, the 24-hour giving day. So always room for improvement, but we're definitely trying to educate our students the best we can on why giving back to Cortland is important. A question from Bruce. Hello, can you talk about the, oh, no. Bruce's question will be up next. I see we have a question from Jonathan above. Last question for me, where do you see the most opportunity for SUNY Cortland over the next few years? And then we'll have Bruce's question as our last one.
Yeah, what was that? The future direction of the college? Was that the question?
Yep. What do you see the most where do you see the most opportunity, for SUNY Cortland over the next few years?
Right. Well, I think one of the things that we've realized more and more is the importance of internships and clinical opportunities. And so asking our alums to host our students, student teaching, because during the pandemic, it was very hard to have students who were unvaccinated at the time to go into schools. Of course, now that will change. So I think you're going to see more extra or co-curricular opportunities as well. We will probably do more with remote learning and online education. I'll give you one example. I mentioned mental illness, and a lot of our students are not at all ashamed today of asking for help, counseling. And one of the benefits of online education turned out to be telemedicine. So we had students that would be embarrassed to go into Van Hosen into the counseling center, but because they could go online, they could meet quietly and secretly with a counselor without anyone knowing. And so that's one example that we're not going to go away from. We're going to tell our students, if you'd like to have a counseling session or multiple sessions, you can visit with a counselor in private. And that is very important to our students. Also advising, we'll probably do more with advising. And, you know, it takes time to walk across the campus. So we may use this new technology to help us with some meetings. They could start at 3 and end it at 4 and not worry about the 10 or 15 or 20 minutes it takes to get around. So we're still figuring out how we can use this new technology in exciting fashion. There's also always new curriculum. I'll give you an example. In business economics, we have Bloomberg technology about the stock market. That's $22,000 a year that we spend so that our students, you know, have that wisdom and knowledge to use. And so, you know, new technology and microscopes in chemistry. One of the things that I was very excited about is a student, a chemistry major, went down to New Jersey, is working as a bench chemist for a very large pharmaceutical house. And when he was applying, they brought him into an analytic lab. And they said, do you know how to use any of this equipment? And he said, there's not a piece of equipment here that I haven't used at SUNY Cortland. And they hired him. And so that's Roche and Company. So I was very, you know, honored. So keeping abreast of new technology and equipment, even artists, you might find this fascinating. They work on computers now, big Macs, doing graphic designs. Everything can be done. Though we don't have a music major, we have students that in our theater that minor. They can write symphonies on computers. And so technology is going to ramp up our costs and our opportunities. So there's just, you know, it's a very exciting world in front of us. And and then, of course, the physical plant, always updating, getting additional funding. I do think we have some world-class facilities, but we can always continue to improve. And that's one of the things that I will have to keep an eye on. So those are just a few thoughts.
Awesome. And I think we have Bruce as our last question here today because we're coming up on our hour here. Bruce said, can you talk about the longtime professors who have recently retired over the last few years? Just curious to hear who was still
Yes,
teaching.
there have been some wonderful, you know, I'll miss some because there have been a lot, but I'll tell you, just leaving us here in August is Bob Spitzer. He's written 22 books on the American presidency and gun control. And unfortunately, after a long career, he's retiring. Almost in every department, we're losing senior faculty. Suzanne Polly in business economics, Henry Steck. If you name some people, it would probably be easier for me to tell you what they're doing and if they've retired. But we have physical educators and teachers, and so we're a very bimodal faculty right now. They're very senior and they're very young, and this will continue probably for the next few years. Is there anyone in particular you'd like to know about? I would be delighted to share with you.
No, nothing, nobody I could think of. I was just curious to see
No,
who's
we
still
are.
around and who's
Yeah,
not.
we're losing 7 or 8 senior faculty every year. One year, right before the pandemic, we hired 34 new faculty, and that's a lot for a school our size. There was a whole group of faculty that came over a few years, and they just decided to retire, and that caught us off guard to some degree. That number, but we've had a couple of years where we've lost 27. We had to hire 27. So I think we've gone through the bulk of the senior faculty, but we're going to get more in the near future. So if you came back to visit, many of the faculty that retire do stay in the Cortland community, and I see them in the Student Life Center. I happen to be nearby, and Barry Batsing, a retired microbiologist, comes up every day, And there are others, but I am surprised how many people have retired over the last few years. They seem to me very young, and it turns out they're in their 70s. So what do I know about age?
All right. I think that was our last question. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I'm just reading through. Oh, Jeff said, if you aren't on Cortland social media, get on. I agree. We have social media pages for the Alumni Association, and we try to share as much as possible that's going on around campus. So while these events are great, we try to keep you updated throughout the year as well. So definitely follow us. We're at SUNY Cortland Alumni on Instagram and Facebook, and at Cortland Alumni on Twitter. And yeah, I believe that's all. Some nice comments in the chat. But thank you, Erik, for sharing all this wonderful information
Yes,
with our
if you have
alums today.
yeah, if you have additional questions, you can always call me at the office, and I'd be happy to share with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you everyone for joining. We really appreciate you attending and supporting Virtual Reunion. We're hoping that next year we can all see each other in person again.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.